All right, good evening, everybody. We're on the GaREIA Yellow Letter Coaching Program Introductory Meeting. Kurt Smith, Darlene Kokora, we're here to help get you guys to the next level in your real estate career. Hey, Kurt.
Hey, Darlene. Hey, everyone.
I'm going to go ahead and share the screen with us to put the just put a little presentation on there as we work this together. Can you all see the presentation? Can you see it, Kurt?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. I'm going to hand it over to you for starters, and then we'll just go back and forth as needed.
Sure. Hey, everyone. Darlene and I teach the Yellow Letter. We're still keeping it called Yellow Letter Direct Marketing, but this time we're going to be adding outbound. We're going to be calling potential sellers as well as mailing them letters when we can't reach them. So I'm really excited about this this rendition, this version of Yellow Letters. An overview of the Yellow Letter direct mail campaign during this call will tell you how to find motivated sellers and how to buy more houses through direct marketing, not waiting for the agent to call or for you to find them in MLS. Direct marketing reaches out and finds the sellers, and they call you or you call them directly. During the 60-day coaching program, we will show you lead lists and how to use skip trace to find their phone numbers and call sellers. And then if all else fails, mail those yellow letters, and then the sellers will call you. We'll give you scripts to use when the phone rings, and also how to call and talk to sellers when you're reaching out to them via skip trace. Join now, receive 250 free absentee owner lists, part of your joining this coaching program.
Tell us more about that list.
Yeah, so Kent Clothier, about 5 years ago, created findmotivatedsellersnow.com. I paid, I think, $1,500 one-time lifetime subscription to 12,000 vacant house leads per month. And so because I made that investment about 5 years ago, I give these leads away to GaREIA members as a part of our coaching programs. Shannon White also bought the same program. He recreated that domain. It's now reww.com, and it still is about $1,500. But he now offers monthly $149 a month, I think, for those leads, and they're genuine vacant. Sometimes there's vacant land, but it has been reliable to be vacant houses. And what better lead source to have you doing a direct marketing campaign to is vacant houses.
So one of the things we're going to do, our 60-day coaching program, we're going to spend 4 Saturdays together. We're going to spend 4 webinars together like this. Again, once you register for the program, those who want to take it to the next level, Kurt will get with you and find out which zip codes you want to use and start getting those leads out to you and give instructions to take it to the next step. Our first in-class session is actually going to be on Saturday, June 16th at 10 a.m. So I want to kind of bring that up. What we're going to do tonight is we're going to tell you a lot, give you a lot of good content on how to find those sellers and what to do when the sellers contact you or when you contact them. I think that's one of the biggest fears for new investors that I've seen is, oh my gosh, what do I do? How do I talk to somebody that I haven't even met before? A lot of folks call one of the techniques out there driving for dollars, and a lot of times when I'm teaching the Saturate Your Market class, you want to identify a very specific area, and a really nice marketing approach is doing the yellow letter, and as Kurt was saying, doing the skip tracing. So we're going to be able to talk about, between Kurt and I, we have years and years of experience, lots of volume under our belt from dealing with sellers and dealing with real estate, a lot of different transactions. So this is an interactive time. We'll spend time telling you a little bit, and then we'll spend time, getting some feedback together. So direct marketing in real estate, the only job of knocking on doors, the only job of putting out direct marketing is to make the phone ring. And so one of the most important things is when the phone rings, you have to be scripted. You have to have questions. You have to know where you want to lead the sellers. And so one of the most important things I tell my team when we're knocking on doors or when we're sending out letters, when we're getting the phone to ring is, how motivated is the seller? So one of the most important things you have to do is find out who you're talking to. If somebody calls you, the nice thing about doing direct mail is that the seller has opened the door and they've given you permission to talk to them. So it's a lot easier when you do direct mail and they call you because they've said, hey, I'm raising my hand and saying, I'm interested in selling my house. So that's an important aspect of it. When we spend a lot more time together over the 60-day coaching program, we're gonna role play. We're actually, Kurt, you were saying want to get on the phone, right? We're gonna do some skip tracing, find some sellers, and actually make some phone calls.
Right. That's the beauty of taking a lead list instead of going through the labor-intensive process of writing all those yellow letters, which yellow letters out-compete about 4-to-1 than these postcards that I get from people all over the country. This one happens to be Richard living in Norcross, but I've gotten postcards from Canada, from California usually, and so on. But when you skip trace a lead list, you are in control. You are getting the seller on the phone, and unless they hang up, you've got them. But direct marketing is good, but taking that lead list and skip tracing and making that phone call is even better. It shortens that getting a deal from several months to many months to minutes. You can skip trace your lead list and a week or two contact everyone. Where when you're mailing the postcard or yellow letter, it may take months for those folks to call you back. I've gotten calls a year later because their circumstances wasn't right when they first got my letter. And Darlene, I'm sure you've gotten deals many, many, many months after you mailed your letters out.
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, it's interesting because the deals that we're getting, we've started to, how you're doing in the Google groups where you're asking people what's the best way to kind of manage the lead flow. So we're starting to save on our spreadsheets, to save in our programs. We saw one that we did recently. Robert, Mimi, and Kelly and I did one, and we bought it on April 2nd as a subject to deal the day before the April 3rd foreclosure. And originally, we made contact with them in November 2017. We sent out a direct mail piece. And so that's just one example that sometimes, and I know Kyle from GaREIA, Kyle has, a specific niche, and he says, I think about 6 or 7 months into his direct mail campaign is about when he gets his best result.
Yep.
I think I've seen Christine raised her hand. If you have a question, Christine, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and ask.
Hi, Kurt, you mentioned skip trace. Can you define that?
Yeah, that is a generic term. It came from the days of when it was an external service, and it was the collections or the private investigator chasing someone who skipped out. But today, peoplefinders.com is a very good service, $28 a month. Ben Verified, BEN, 2 E's, verified.com. They have a $56 for 3 months, and so it renews every 3 months for $56. That's a very good service. One of the issues in the so-called skip trace websites is some are they charge per lookup, and as investors, we might do 200 lookups a month. We want to sign up with services that are all you can eat. And Ben Verified does not have a limit. It's all you can eat. as well as peoplefinders.com are the two services I have. I also have premium.whitepages.com. They started out as all you can eat, and they have slowly moved to a pricing tier per batches or per numbers of lookups. Ben Verified is best, but I've compared the lookups between Ben Verified and People Finders, and People Finders will have more cell phones numbers that are good. So as investors, we ended up with a lot of monthly fees for these services, but if you just chose one skip trace service, Ben Verified would be a good one.
Hey, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Kurt?
Yeah.
Yeah. On that note, Robert and Mimi, do you mind unmuting yourself?
Okay,
Hey,
we're here.
Hey, tell us about, so, talking about Ben Verified, I know you have a lot of experience with it. Tell us about some of the other features in Ben Verified when we're talking about someone that you've actually spoken to and you want a little bit more background. What's some of the background information that you get when you use that?
Well, if you can't find them, what we do is we look for next of kin, and then we go knock on their door or leave a letter stating the property that we're interested in. Or let's say if you want to know if a homeowner has done a bankruptcy, because of what we do with pre-foreclosures, you could tell what they've done and when they filed. There's a lot of good information.
So
right.
Bankruptcies.
You found the emails to be good?
Yeah, the emails are very good. The numbers aren't always good, but what I do is there's usually like maybe 7 or 8 numbers, and they let you know when that number was last used, what year. So if it says 2018, sometimes there's 2 or 3 numbers like that. I just text them all, and I do get pretty lucky. Sometimes I get a response like, leave me alone. And that's usually the homeowner that's in pre-foreclosure when I text them. They're saying, I'm not interested. But you could definitely tell the difference when you hit a nerve and you reach the right person versus, let's say, just somebody that you got the wrong number with.
What's the most valuable information you get from Ben Verified?
Well, I mean, the emails and the address of next of kin, or every property. I can verify every property that they own, so I can tell where they moved to. If, let's say, it's a vacant pre-foreclosure or a vacant home, you can find the next. You can find where they live now, if they bought another house, and then go knock on that door about the property you're interested in.
Very good. Thank you.
What I find, Robert, what I find interesting about what you do, it's very time efficient, is I think since you're really doing it day to day, you know how much time gets eaten reaching out to sellers, that I find it interesting. Instead of trying to phone those numbers, you just text them. That saves a lot of time, I bet.
I hate being hung up on, so I mean, at least you get in your, what you want, and people respond better to text than they do answering the phone. I get a lot of hang-ups, like they'll call us, and I'll say hi, I'll say hello, this is Robert, how can I help you? And then I'll get a click. I put that down as a pre-foreclosure, and then I text them a pre-foreclosure script, and then they respond over time. So yeah, right.
Well, getting the click with pre-foreclosure is more likely. If it's just a vacant house seller, there's very few people actually hanging up on you with vacants. That your situation is more specific to pre-foreclosure.
I don't know. Robert was telling me this week how he feels like sometimes those folks are more angry than the pre-foreclosure folks at times.
Your vacant homeowners are very angry that you come and find them. I've noticed that versus, let's say, somebody that you go to their door and they're going through pre-foreclosure. A lot of them, you know, they don't mind. It takes time for them to open up. You got to go back more than one time. But once they see you coming back, you know, they'll talk with you, but they still are in denial, and it just takes time, you know, for them to realize on their own.
But you find the same thing with property owners of vacant houses, because we're able to find where they live, and they don't like the fact that you found where they live.
You know, and I think they're embarrassed of the house that the vacant home that's probably has a lot of rats and all kinds of, you know, squirrels and stuff in it because it's been sitting a long time.
You know, one of the most important things to keep in mind about this business, the reason that this is such a popular topic right now is because in 2018, we are in one of the strongest sellers markets that we've had. And what that means translated is there's so little inventory out there. You know, the banks have what they call REOs. Those are post-foreclosed properties. Once the property gets foreclosed, if they don't sell it at the steps, then the bank takes it back. If you go online and start bidding on REOs today on bank-owned properties, you'll see that there's a ton of people bidding on those properties. Some of those are HUD homes. Those are Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, VA homes, auction.com. These are some of the most popular ones people know about. Hudson Marshall. There's so much competition out there and so little inventory that the prices, you know, it's the supply and demand issue. The prices are astronomical. And as small investors, if all we want to make is a 10% profit on a flip, or we want a decent rental to buy and hold, we got to go out there and find the properties ourselves. So one of the main things to keep in mind, we're dealing with natural humans in this part of the business. I've got deep and wide background in all phases of foreclosures, and we've purchased at the steps, we've purchased tons of REOs, and I've started in my business way back in the early 90s in pre-foreclosures. And I'm back to basics because we can't find and compete on the radar if it's in MLS or if it's anywhere, you know, on the internet. So the funny thing is, everything we need to learn about this business is really important, and we want to structure and systemize what we do so that we can buy more than one house a year. The key is we're really in the people business. Real estate is the people business. And Robert, he's amazing. I mean, the guy doesn't take no for an answer. You have to be thick-skinned if you're going to go knock on the door. A lot of us couldn't do that. I mean, it's just not comfortable. But the bottom line is developing a relationship in a very short period of time. So somewhere, somehow, whether you're doing it on the telephone, whether you're doing it in the mail, or whether you're doing it at the door, you have to figure out, or email or text, you have to figure out how to develop a relationship really quickly. And then from there,
I'm going to move up in a second.
My most important question is, on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the most motivated, Mr. Seller, how motivated are you to sell your house in the next 30 to 60 days? And you guys, this is the most important note you should take tonight. It's not magic. Some of us are pretty good at what we do and we get some really good results, but it's a matter of numbers. That's the question. Somebody needs to mute themselves. If you get, oh, well, I really am not interested in selling right now, you can keep on keeping on, but the bottom line is you have to find out, where's the pain? Where's the motivation? What is it that seller wants? And you can do anything you want and give them, you know, $100 million or $1 million. And if they're not ready to sell, they're not ready to sell. So part of the entire training that we're going to do is help you to understand the relationship that you have to build and how to control it, how to structure your ability to solve the seller's problem. So that's kind of where we are in a nutshell, you know, as far as what we do here. Robert Davis said, I've used Yellow Letter a few times. Each time I got a great call rate, but I was never able to convert the call to a deal. This is a good one for you, Kurt. Most of the absentee landlords that I spoke with were really looking to sell at market value. What's your approach when you talk to a seller who's trying to get top dollar without a realtor?
Right. Well, actually, this flips back to you, Darlene. Darlene, you pay marketing fees to list those houses. So actually, when we're doing direct marketing, we should not throw away leads that probably are listings. We should contact Darlene and have her list the property, and you still make something on it, right?
Oh, absolutely. So we're all about profit sharing. So Robert and Mimi has joined my team, and we do a lot of work together. We make a lot less on each deal, but we share the burden of the work that has to happen. And that's what I do is I build teams. So for example, we talk to the seller, and Robert will say, look, we may not be the best buyer for you. We like you guys, and we love your house, and we want to help. We want to be on the team. We want to help you sell your house. And I give everybody in earshot that opportunity to work with us. I've got some investors from GaREIA, even some agents from GaREIA that we do some business together. We tag team because, you have a strength. You're presenting an offer. I'm going to come back with a different personality. And I even present an offer, and I say to them, look, I may not be the best buyer right now, but I would still like to sell your house. Or you would say, we may not be your best buyer, but we have our team would still like to work with you. Would you be interested in hearing how that sounds? And so there's multiple revenue streams, and that's one of the things you have to learn in the business. Robert Davis, like you're saying, is, that's the majority of the deals want to sell at market value. Resources are so easily available to the homeowner and the seller that they know what the market value or the perceived market value of their house is, and they say, that's what I'm looking for. What we try to do is dig a little deeper. We try to find out, you got market value for your property, how much cash are they getting at closing? Why do they need, not want, but why do they need that cash today? And if they don't have a good need answer, if they don't have a good why they want the cash today, you have to, again, develop a lot more rapport, and you have to be ready with creative deal structuring. So sometimes buying a house outright and putting a new loan in place is not the right deal. Maybe that person says, well, I'm actually, I'm really going to just take the money and put it in the bank because I'm trying to retire and I just want to live off of it. I have a better solution for you, Mr. Seller. What if I were able to help you, if I could show you a way that your money could work for you, and I would guarantee all, taking care of the house, all the repairs, and I would pay you every month for it. Would you be open to hear that? And so on and so forth. One of the most common questions we like to ask, would you be willing to, why are you selling your house today? Once again, it goes back to motivation level. If somebody says, I want market value, period, end of story, and they're really interested in selling and they're motivated to sell, by all means say, we may not be the best buyer, but let us sell the house for you. There are a lot of other things that can be said. There are a lot of other deal structuring that we can't deal with in this next 60 minutes, but we do take time in our coaching program to go through different types of contracts, different types of offers, and trying to solve the human problem behind the real estate that we're trying to buy.
Right. So Yellow direct marketing is probably half of what we will end up talking about. We will, in order to address Robert Davis's actual solution, we have to squeeze in how to estimate rehab. What is the house really worth? The as is, well, it's the ARV less the rehab, less the flipper's profit. So when a seller says, I want this estimate and his house needs $50,000 in rehab, part of our job as being the doctor, the real estate doctor, is to help educate in a compassionate and friendly way that the seller's house isn't like their neighbors that just got top dollar. Their house needs repairs. And the person who does those repairs needs a profit. We're all not philanthropists. We're doing this to make money. So that house that the owner says, I want whatever the number is, we have to meet them face to face and talk them through the process. Some will realize what you're saying makes sense, and some won't. The people who won't probably aren't motivated sellers anyway. So you just have to call them back every month.
Yep. And that's one of the hardest things. You know, one, getting somebody to talk to me, that's the first hardest thing to do. The second most hardest thing to do is to qualify them. I mean, really, honestly, I have to say, are you motivated to sell your house? No, I'm not. So when do you think you would sell your house? Would you be okay if I contacted you sometime in the future? Absolutely. You know, if they like you, if you're a nice person, they like you, they trust you, they have confidence in you, then you're just developing a relationship. You're trying to turn a cold market into a warm market. And again, it's not something that a lot of us like to do. If you've never been in sales, there's a reason, and you probably don't want to be in sales necessarily. If you do, we've got some great training to help you get there. Don't we, Robert? You know, it's a lot. It's amazing. You could have really good people skills. Now you have to learn how to just direct them down the path you need to direct them to. There's something else I was thinking earlier is, oh, you know what? We have a script. So here's what happens. Now the phone is ringing. The phone rings. What are you going to do? I have on my website, you know, Kurt and I are available to our coaching students. He does one-on-one meetings. He does phone calls. I do telephone calls. Go to my website, darbyshouses.com. Click on free consultation for investors. You'll see it there. I have some investor forms. We're going to go ahead. I want to include in the chat box. This is the property information sheet. And anybody that knows me can tell you, this is my Bible to what I do when it comes to looking at properties. Whether you're a GaREIA investor, a real estate agent, a seller, anybody like that. When you call me and say, hey, I got this property you need to look at. One of my teammates, I say, I pull out my property information sheet. We're going to include a link for you in the chat box. And this is my script. This is the data that I need, whether it's pre-foreclosure. One of the questions is, are you willing to sell your house for what you owe on it? If we can close on the day of your choice and pay cash, what's the lowest you would sell me the house for? How many bedrooms, bathrooms, square foot? When's the last time you've done repairs to the house? What does the house need? I'm trying to develop a relationship in a very short period of time. I take this form and I make 100 copies. They're all over. They're in my car. They're in my office. They're in my bedroom. They're everywhere. Wherever my phone is, those forms are. So I recommend the first tool in your toolbox is a clipboard. The next tools are a highlighter, a pen, and 100 copies of the property information sheet. And we'll go in more in detail when we get into our coaching program. But for those of you, here's a nice bonus for you tonight. It's self-explanatory. Ask your spouse, ask your significant other, ask your brother, your sister, your child, your parents. Go in and ask 5 people about their house and just use that form and get familiar with it. It's one of the most important forms you're going to need. But I just wanted to kind of give you that bonus for the moment. It just crossed my mind. What happens? You know, I want to get the phone to ring with motivated sellers calling me about their house. What am I going to do when they call me? I have to be ready. And then some of the tools that Robert and Kurt mentioned earlier, you know, I got to go and I got to look up a lot of information about the house. I look at the Zestimate also. I use the Zestimate as one of my barometers to figure out what the value of the house is, because all of my formulas are based off the value of the house. If we're good, Kurt, I want to move to the next one.
Yep.
And this is where you and I were talking about putting a game plan in place.
Right. What I see a lot of new folks, and I see success. When I see success, there's something that's specific that they're doing. They're time blocking their week, where people who are hobbying at real estate don't have a time block. Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 12, driving for dollars. And then 1 o'clock to 3, analyzing deals. Weeknights, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., calling sellers. So the time blocking, your game plan, is what will create success for you, and sticking to it. Direct marketing has an interesting relationship. You can spend personal time and less money, or you can spend more money and less time. If you didn't want to skip trace and phone call, you could just mail everyone a letter by using your credit card, because the lead list I will send out, you could contact yellowletters.com, upload the spreadsheet, and they'll mail everything out for you. It's just a credit card. So that's using money and very little time. Then you just wait for the phone calls. Or you could subscribe to the skip trace and Ben Verified or People Finders. I have both. And spend the time to reach out and phone call or text people, which I think Robert gave a really a good tip, because texting is, you can copy and paste that same message, and you just paste it into that text to all those phone numbers that you get from Ben Verified, and it takes very little time. That phone phone call, you might spend 20 minutes on the phone, which eats a lot of time. So the lead list you'll get, you could spend more time by calling everyone. So it'll be something you will have to decide for yourself, the time versus money to do your marketing.
One of the things that it can be scary. This could be scary if you've never been in sales before, if you've never gone out there and talked to strangers. I don't know, those who don't know my background, when I was in my mid-20s, I accidentally came across a job working for Encyclopedia Britannica, door-to-door sales, talking to strangers. I never sold a thing in my life, had no desire, but it trained me in ways that I could never got trained any other way. And it's funny because now I've been in real estate since 1991, and all of those skills I learned back then come into play in my real estate business. And I don't realize how much I know until I realize, and how good I am at being able to manage the negotiations, the whole process of what we call petting the dog, or helping the seller to drop their guard, and how to get to the point of isolating the objection so that I know exactly. You could ask them to sell your house 20 times, but if you haven't identified that stumbling block, learning how to do that it's a technique. You have to be trained. Some people are natural, but you have to be trained at it. And it's the same thing like Kurt was saying earlier too, the different contract strategies. I never bring a contract out until we have verbally come to an agreement. And I do like shaking the hands. I used to shake a hand when we have an agreement, or we'll hug. I'm a hugger. And, some folks are really, really warm and fuzzy. And so once we do that, then I bring the contract out and I say, this is how it looks on paper. But I've got an agreement. These guys said yes. And so one of the things when we're in class, we're going to go through scripting. So on the telephone, I say, they say, hi, is Darlene there? This is Darlene. How may I help you? I got your letter in the mail, and it says that you buy houses. Fantastic. Who am I talking to? Jane Doe. Jane, can you spell that for me? Can I get a phone number? Can I get an email address? Jane, what is the property address that you're calling about? Now, if you've got your spreadsheet, which I typically do, is I'm typing in, or I may already know somewhere, somehow, I've got all the data that I want, but I'm still going to ask her off of my property information sheet. I'm going to ask her because I'm trying to develop that rapport. I'm trying to develop that trust from her. And so I'm going to ask her, so why are you selling your house? What's your situation? What are you hoping to happen? And then I shut up. You can see I can talk and talk and talk, but that's when I shut up. I ask a question and I shut up until there's silence. If there's silence for a second and a half or 2 seconds, I may go back into and say, I see. And I'm going to tell them what they just told me. So what you're saying is you would like to sell your house because, your wife is in Idaho and you want to join her there. I understand. So now you've got your ammunition. It all starts that way. One of the things that I've learned in the business and been in real estate, I feel like I've never done anything else, is find your passion, find your strength. And if you don't like doing the part that I'm talking to you about, you got to join forces with somebody else. You either hire somebody to do it for you, or you partner with somebody. You know, again, Robert and Mimi and I, that those guys are fiends hitting the bricks. They're out there all the time. I don't have time to go knock on the doors. You know, Kurt was saying you could spend your time, you could spend your money, or you could spend a little bit of both. One of the things we help you do is put together a business plan. You know, your business plan is going to help you decide. You know, I love this one Kurt put together. You have to decide how to make a business out of real estate. You have to have a plan. You have to know what your marketing budget is. Once you know your marketing budget, we can tell you how many direct mail pieces you should send out every month. Earlier in the call, we talked about how many times do you think you have to touch a person or send out a mail piece before they're actually going to pick up the phone and call you. It's not going to happen on the first time. So you have to be ready for that. You know, is this just a hobby or is it a business? You know, Kurt, I mean, you've made this a full-time business, what, in just three short years, right?
Well, buying rentals starting 8 years ago. But yeah, I've been full-time for 2 years now.
Only 2 years?
Well, I quit my day job on the rental income I have. So I'm spending my time doing direct marketing and managing rentals.
So how would you speak into, folks who are just getting started in the business and making it a business of real estate, not just a hobby? What would be the difference in their daily activity or what they have to do to be able to make it a real business?
Folks with families, there needs to start with that family discussion that mother or father is going to be spending time outside of the house, but the purpose is to bring extra income into the family and to have a better path than working that 40-hour work job every week. A partner has to be on board, but it starts with your why. Why do you want to get into real estate? To quit your day job, to add stability or additional finances to your family. Now that why will get you over the what's, the extra work, spending time driving neighborhoods during the weekend, spending time sitting at the kitchen counters of sellers, time on the phone. What you're going to end up having to give up is evening TV, beer and pretzels. You're going to be on the phone to sellers instead. So folks that are successful, I ask them, what is their weekly schedule like? It's amazing. Monday through Thursday, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., they're calling 7 to 9, they're calling sellers. From 9 p.m. to 11 p.m., they're analyzing deals. If it's the mother of the family, they put dinner on the table. They might get some calling in between 7 and 8, then they put the kids to bed. Then from 10 to 11, they're analyzing deals. So they've directed all of their spare time to real estate. I've not seen wholesaling or direct marketing to be doable on a hobby basis, because you've got to be calling those sellers back 5, 6, 8 times and lead generating. We're going to give you 250 leads, but you need your own supply or lead stream for your business. The 250 is just to get started. I personally can give you leads as long as you commit to calling them. I'm happy to supply you those leads, but it takes a lot of time. when I see folks not being successful, it ends up being other life's competition that we all have takes over. But folks like Alan Wilshire, 7 months joining GaREIA, he's now doing a couple deals a month. He threw himself into it. He's so impressive. If you've met Alan and heard him talk about how to get started in wholesaling, he's got a great direct marketing campaign that he built himself. So I want everyone who takes this coaching campaign to be serious about it. I'll show you a time blocking schedule that Alan Wilshire uses, and you can pick and choose what works for you. But you've got to really make that commitment to make the calls, do the door knocking if you can, and write the yellow letters. When I hear from Mimi and Robert, Robert's out there door knocking all weekend and some weeknights, aren't you, Robert?
Usually we'll go out in the morning during the week, and then come home, I guess, around like 9 to 5, 9 to 6, and just door knock on, on pre-foreclosures or absentee owners.
Yep. So I'm very impressed with the level of effort, and you're beginning to see the results, and that's because you've earned them.
Thank you.
And everything works if you work. A lot of people say direct mail doesn't work. You don't get very good results. Paul Kennedy, he hosts one of GaREIA's subgroups in West Georgia. And I think Paul Kennedy has done about 6 transactions, buy, fix, and flips, just from direct mail. And again, not to keep putting Robert and Mimi in the spotlight, but those guys, again, primarily are getting their deals from door knocking. So no matter how you reach out to folks, you got to reach out multiple times. And everybody will tell you the same thing. Most of their results were not gotten from the first contact. By the way, for all you beginners, there's this thing in real estate called beginner's luck. I know there was a guy who started GaREIA several years ago. His first deal, he made $60,000 profit. None of us see that very often. It's a grand slam in anybody's book. If you're making $60,000 on bread and butter deals, these would be deals under $300,000. So there's beginner's luck. So you guys should be excited. There's one out there waiting for you. Just because you're a beginner, you're going to run into it. The third one you mail out and they call you, you're going to end up with a really good deal. The key is trying to find deals that have equity. I think it was Robert Davis earlier. Everybody wants full price, but if you find the pain, if you find the reason and you find the motivation why the seller wants to sell, and you're armed, you have in your toolbox, you have in your arsenal, many different ways to structure a deal. But it doesn't matter how many ways you know how to structure a deal if you don't know how to uncover the seller's motivation. If all they want to do is sell that property retail, then I will share the profit with you guys. Tell them, that's great, let me help you sell your house. And if they say okay, then you tell them that you're going to go ahead and get in contact with your partner, and she'll be in touch with you, and we're going to go ahead and sell the house. Doesn't cost them anything on the front side. So 8 out of 10 people you talk to, depending on what kind of list you work, are going to tell you that they want retail price, or they have loans on the property. If you're not using a specialized list like Kurt has, that is absentee owner with equity. It's really, for my team, we really like to try to target houses with equity, because we have a better chance of coming up with some kind of deal structure that would work for us and it would work for the seller. My last ditch effort, if I find a seller that I know there's $100,000 or $50,000 in equity, and the seller clearly wants to sell and the house is vacant, my last ditch effort, he doesn't want me to list it. He doesn't want me to buy it. I'm going to tell him, look, man, I would love if you would give me some profit share. Let me work with you. Let me work for you. And so, I'll keep him in the deal. There's ways to keep the owner in the deal. And that's just as important when there's equity in the deal as getting him to sign over the contract or sign over the deed. So there's so many different ways, and it just takes a lot of volume, a lot of practice, and a lot of mentoring, if you will. I love Kurt Smith. For those of you who are new to GaREIA or not even part of GaREIA, Kurt Smith operates our Google Groups. And our Google Groups is an amazing, unlimited resource. If you're looking for, what did I see today, a garbage disposal person down in Atlanta, or if you're looking for, can you help me do the valuation on this property? I don't know how to figure out what the market value is. All of a sudden you go in there, just like this chat group here. You put it in there and people start communicating with you. That's how you get good at real estate. You surround yourself with like-minded people. You surround yourself who are bigger at it and better at it than you are, whatever it is. There's something you bring to the table, and then there's something that you're lacking. And so that's what we do as a group is we kind of come together and make a whole much better than us as individual parts. So it's exciting. It's a great place to be. It's a good time to be in the business. The only place to be right now is in trying to find the sellers. You literally have to try to find the sellers. So that's why we kind of got on this this train for now. Going to move to the next slide, Kurt.
Yep.
Talked a little bit about the inbound and the outbound calls. One of the things I like best about direct mail, and then I'll let you take over there. And one of the things I like best, again, like I said earlier, is they have given me permission. So for those of us who don't like confrontation and don't like to be pushy, they called you. So when they called you, you have permission to talk to them. So that's right. one of the best things about direct mail.
Right. I wouldn't use the word pushy. Outbound or cold calling the seller off the lead list. You aren't trying to sell them a vacuum cleaner or an insurance policy. You're trying to put money in their pocket. So you're really good news. You should feel good about yourself, even making that phone call off been verified to find which one of those phone numbers is the owner of 123 Main Street. You're going to bring good news. So you shouldn't feel apprehensive. The seller may act apprehensive, but when he finds out that, hey, I want to buy your house, I love the neighborhood, are you willing to, or do you know anyone who's selling a house in your neighborhood? Well, I might be willing to sell a 123 Main Street. Well, could you tell me about the house? And then you just simply ask questions. Keep them talking as you work your way through the lead sheet, filling in just through normal conversation, all those details. At first, you may not be able to get all of that lead sheet filled out on one phone call. The always useful beg off strategy is, John Doe, would you mind if I called you back in 2 days? I need to confer with my team over your house's details. Can I call you back Tuesday night at 7? Sure. Thank you very much. Been nice talking. Click. Now you stop hyperventilating and you relax, and you could contact the Yellow Letter group. We have a Google group. Put your details up there. We can give you advice. In 2 days, you catch your breath, you call them back. In the meantime, you're doing this to all 250 other folks, and then you get to be good at it. The script actually, I believe, is more of a placebo, because everyone has their own style after they've made 100 phone calls. You're not following a script. I bet you, Robert, when I listened to Robert talk about talking to sellers, I said, that's not scripted. That's organic Robert. So Darlene has her own script. I have her own organic nature. So we'll give you scripts, but honestly, in time, you're not going to even use those scripts. They're just check boxes to give you a confidence that I've got the script. But Darlene, might you agree that people just run off the tracks and just follow their own nature?
So yes, I agree. And before that point, though, you have to know where you're going. It's a roadmap. You have to understand it as a roadmap. So one of the things I like to teach my team is to use your what do they call them back in school? Flashcards. Your index cards. You should take, he who asks questions controls the conversation. So you should have on the wall in front of you, and you should sit up tall. You should have your earpiece, not like this. You shouldn't be holding on the phone like this, because it's going to give you an ache and you're going to be cranky. You want to be smiling, have a picture, have your mirror in front of you, and your questions. Why are you selling? What do you hope to happen? If we could pay you cash and close on the day of your choice, what's the lowest you could sell it to me for? So what you're telling me is, if I could close, when did you want to close? If I could close, that's the best price you could give me? And so all of these questions, when we give you scripts, and I am looking like I'm looking at the wall and I'm talking on the phone to somebody. So when we give you the scripts, you want to rewrite the questions, and it's the same question 20 times. Why do you want to sell your house? How much can you sell your house to me for? And then you learn softening. There's softening words, instead of selling me the house. There's different words that you're going to learn how to do with that. So it's the roadmap. Where am I going? Otherwise, until you've done it a few times, you end up with conversations and you end up with no results. So if you're asking questions, you're going to lead them where you want them to go. You see at the bottom of the screen right now, write this one down. Everybody should be writing this one down. If we can pay cash and close on the day of your choice, what's the lowest you would sell your house for? I can say that in my sleep. I've memorized it. So my script is mostly memorized. No matter what somebody says to me, it's interesting. I find myself, every time I get on the phone with somebody, I talk a lot slower when I'm on the phone. I make myself breathe. I want to be calm. And I say, hi, Jane. This is Darlene. I'm glad you called. And why are you selling your house? What are you hoping to happen here? Jane, how long have you owned the house? And this is all on the property information sheet. I always end up, and I always gravitate towards this one side, and it says, how much is your monthly payment? Does that include your taxes and insurance? I want to know if I can take the deal subject to. Meaning, can I own the property and just take over their payments and leave the mortgage in their name? If I guaranteed your payments and guaranteed the condition of the house, would you be willing to allow me to lease the property? If somebody owns it free and clear, and they only want to sell it for retail price, I may be willing to buy it for retail price if I can put money in bucket number 2, right? So my script is all designed to help me figure out, where can I go with this? How can I find a deal? I'm looking for 1 exit or 2 exit or 3 exit strategies on these deals. So that's kind of where that comes in. But that's, interesting. Virtual assistants. That's the buzz in the last couple years. Virtual assistants, outbound calls, Kurt's talking about not being pushy. It's as simple as this. And you don't even have to say a name, because you're giving yourself permission to fail most of the time. For example, you say, oh, I can't call them at 9 in the morning. It's too early. Oh, I can't call them between 12 and 2. It's lunchtime. I can't call them between 5 and 8. It's dinner time. I can't call them after 8. It's too late. So we give ourselves permission to fail. And the same kind of thing happens when we build a script, and you have to be careful about that. So sometimes, instead of asking for the name, I'll say, hi, this is Darlene. I'm a real estate investor here in Atlanta. Do you or someone you know have a house for sale in the Cobb County area? No, thank you. Can I ask you one other question? How long have you lived in your house? Click. Fine, move on to the next one. You should be able to do that 35 times a minute. If you have something that short and simple, 35 times an hour, not a minute. I can't even do that. 35 times an hour, you should be able, if you want to keep it that simple. And I have my property information sheet for the one that says yes. All I want to do is get to question number 3, which is, well, if you're not going to sell now, when do you think you would sell your house? All I'm trying to do is make a warm lead and build my, my tickler file, right? So that I can contact them in 3 months or 3 years, whenever the case may be. And you can hire virtual assistants to do that. Gosh, virtual assistants in the Philippines, you could pay anywhere from $2 to $6 an hour. At 35 calls an hour, you're paying $70 a week to call 1,000 phone numbers. So it's amazing. You don't have to do the work yourself. That goes back to what we were saying earlier. You can spend money, you can spend time. You can have other people help you get there. So it's the expertise, it's the specialized training that you need once you decide, okay, I want to buy 5 rental properties this year. For those of you who have a goal that know what you want in real estate, if you want to buy 1 this year or 1 in the next 12 months, whether it's a wholesale deal, a buy, fix, and flip, or a buy and hold, or you want to buy 10, we can show you how to put a system in play and how to put just a whole team of technology, resources, people to get you where you want to go. It's all about billing it as a business, not as a hobby. So that's what's exciting. I mean, again, Robert's there, Kurt's there, Darlene is there. It's great stuff when you get past that beginning stage. At the beginning, it is very scary, though. At least for me, it was. And then I'm going to be honest. Sometimes I'm nervous when I'm out there talking to sellers. As many times as I've done it, I'm still nervous. You know, it's just I got to get to that point. How do I find the people in this business? How do I find the person? How do I find the pain? And how do I help them solve their problem? When you realize you're in this business to help solve people's problems, you can have anything you want in real estate. Anyway, so, okay. Next, can I go to the next screen? Let us help you work towards your real estate goals. Again, if you're just kind of thinking about getting in the business, you're not ready for this yet, this may not be, for you to join the 60-day coaching program. But if you're serious, let me tell you something. Kurt Smith alone, you have Kurt for life. Try to get rid of him.
Well, actually, if you're getting started in real estate, unless you've got a lot of cash where you can afford to buy rentals off MLS, this actually is where you need to start. I'm not pitching this program. I'm just being honest. You've got to find sellers, and if you don't have a lot of cash or you want a higher profit margin, you've got to get a hold of the seller before they call the agent. Yeah, this is how you do that.
So talk to us again. So when do you're going to give out 200 free leads to every student that attends the coaching program?
Yeah, right.
Right. So what they need to do is they need to register for the coaching program. And then as soon as they're registered, you'll get the emails and then make contact with them to be able to give them out the 250 leads.
I'm not sure if I'll get the sign up through Karen or through the system, but if you've signed up, then I suggest you just reach out to me, and then I'll work with you to get your leads. There's some effort involved on my part, and I also want to make sure that there are no overlapping zip codes. That's one of the painful issues for me, is that if we have 15 students, I'm not going to hand out overlapping leads. Everyone will have unique leads. So that's why I need to work with you up front, is when you come to class June 16th, what day is it? I want you to have your leads in hand, because we're going to go over that lead sheet And we're going to do some sample outbound calls, looking at phone numbers and to show you how to make that call and do live calls in that class. Now, that's the beauty of us adding skip tracing and outbound calling this yellow letter go-round, as we can do more calls in class.
So one of the things, talk about the letters. We were talking about yellow letters before.
Right. So we've tested handwritten yellow letters versus printed postcards or versus printed letters using a letter service like yellowletters.com or click2mail.com. Those are services that you just upload your spreadsheet and swipe your credit card, and they will do the mailing. 4 times more responses from handwritten yellow letters. So we will be teaching and advocating you to write and it takes about 45 seconds to handwrite a yellow letter. Hi, this is Kurt. I want to buy a house in your neighborhood. I'm calling you in regards to 123 Main Street. If you're interested in selling, please contact me. Yours, Kurt Smith, and then my phone number. And you could write that kind of at an angle on a yellow piece of lined paper, put it in a invitation-sized envelope, not a regular business envelope. Stamp it, hand address it. 2 minutes. You will have that 48 cents in the stamp, the envelope about 15 cents. So you have somewhere around 70 cents plus your time into each outbound yellow letter. You do save money by skip tracing and phone calling. So that's where you spend time and no money. So I'm going to be advocating that you yellow letter or mail a yellow letter only when you can't find them. But you will have to make 4 or 5 or 6 repeats in order to finally get most sellers to call back. Some will call a couple of days after you mail, but the rest will be 2, 3, up to 6 letters that you've mailed. Darlene, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, so say that last part again.
Right. So handwritten yellow letters are
Yeah.
4 times more effective than printed or postcards. And so we will be teaching handwritten yellow letters.
Yes. Yeah, perfect. In the right size envelope, we talked about, right? You were teaching me how to make sure.
Right, invitation size. It's kind of rectangular versus the or square versus the business size number 10.
Perfect. Yeah, because the bottom line is what? Getting our mail opened. I mean, that's the key, is getting it open. It needs to look like a nice little invitation. So the more you dress it up, the more likely it is. And then some people have gotten to the technology part of that, of making a font, but instead of writing every letter out. What do you think about that, Kurt? Where they actually do like a handwritten font.
So that handwriting from a human being is part of creating that connection. A part of your energy gets put into that piece of paper. That printer just doesn't put that much human connection in that letter. Your handwriting, as sloppy as it is, and sloppy may be to an advantage, kind of at an angle, not writing on the lines, that transmits human being. And the seller wants a connection to who they're going to do business with. So I don't think the handwritten font is as good as handwritten. Sure, it saves time. Again, it's down to time versus money. You just have to mail 4 times the letters if it's printed versus handwritten.
What do you expect for conversion? I have my number. I'm curious. What's your number? Do you expect for conversion if you were to send out 100 letters?
right? In
Yeah.
100 letters, you're going to get five phone calls back at
At the
most.
most, right, in this area.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that's not many callbacks on the first mailing. So by the sixth mailing, I don't know what the stats are. It depends on your geography and what the list is.
And we're not that organized to be able to keep up with it. You know, we haven't looked at our analytics that way, that in depth. On our first letter, we only expect 1 to 2%. We're working the main counties though. We're working Cobb County, Gwinnett County, you know, the big 5 right here in Atlanta, and so is everybody else. So when I work these counties, I'm not getting a very good callback rate because I think a lot of people are doing the same thing, right? So what if I go out, like I know you do an area like Rossville, I think you're getting a 4 to 5% return, probably more in the outlying areas.
Right. So that's what I have done to avoid competition is to go to counties that have very few investors working them. So students, you might start in the metro county or in your zip codes where you live, and you're just not going to get the same conversion rate than if you started mailing Augusta or whatever county, the county that Rome, Georgia is in, or the county that Columbus, Georgia is in. There's fewer investors working there. You can imagine the competition comes into play on how many letters you have to write to convert into deals. Yeah. Everyone's mailing, in the entire universe is mailing DeKalb County. Our members live in DeKalb. So if you ask for addresses and leads in DeKalb, that's what I'll give you. You will get some phone calls, but I agree with Richard. They're tough conversions.
So we have about, I think we have about 15 minutes left. A couple things. One, we put in the chat box. If you're ready, if you're excited and want to see, go ahead and sign up for the registration. There's the registration link to sign up. That's Saturday, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday will be our first class at 10 a.m. at GaREIA. And and that's when the program officially is going to start. But for now, if you want to unmute yourself, if you have questions, maybe we can do it that way. And if it gets too loud, maybe we'll just control a little bit different. But what questions do you have? What is it that we might be able to help you with tonight? All right. I have a question. Does anybody have, let's call it 18 months between now and the end of 2019. Does anybody have a real estate goal that they want to reach before the end of next year? Actually, let's say before the end of this year first. In 2018, what goal do you need to reach in real estate?
Yeah, this is Les. I was hoping to get at least 2 homes bought and sold by the end of the year. So that's our goal.
That's great. And Les, what area are you targeting?
We're targeting now northern Gwinnett, Sugar Hill, Beaufort area, and also like Gainesville. Mm-hmm.
Very good area. What have you been doing so far to try to find deals?
Yeah, so we've been, hang on a second. Yeah, I'll put my camera back on, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, there it is. We've been driving for dollars. Been doing that. Trying to get out at least when I drive home from work, I try to just at least drive through a neighborhood for about an hour or 2. On the weekends, go out for a couple hours, driving through neighborhoods and jotting down what looks like to be maybe some vacant homes or homes in disrepair that maybe a bad looking house in a good neighborhood, and jot down that. And I actually found one home that looked kind of bad and made contact with the customer, with the seller, who wasn't willing to sell, but at least I'm got his contact information, and I'm going to keep calling him back. But that's kind of what I'm doing.
So we just put it in the chat box there. You'll see there's a form in there. It's called distressed property form. And so what happens is you want to go out there as you're driving for dollars, and you want to collect these addresses. So you want to put them down. One of the things you want to do is come back and try to look up the owners. You also want to immediately send out a yellow letter. You probably want to take a flyer. You can put it on the mailbox the next time you go by. You can knock on some neighbors' doors if you feel real brave. And just say, it's amazing. Neighbors can tell you some things about vacant houses, distressed properties, how long they've been vacant, and so on and so forth. And sometimes, I learned from Robert, is that the owner of that house lives very close by, in a lot of cases, in one of the houses next door. So it's called saturating your market. That's what I like to call it, is you need to know what's coming, what's going, and that's a great start. This form here, if everybody just go ahead and click on that link, take it with you, make yourself some copies, dress it up any way you want to. I like to remember everything I do. Everybody on my team is supposed to put a date and initials, so I know that who started this contact, when did we start it, and we just start from there. And so then I would schedule 7 touches. Every time you're out driving for dollars, this one technique could help you get a deal where you may not have got one yet, and that is 7 touches. Every address that you're interested in is put it somewhere on your calendar. Make it 5 weeks apart. Every 5 weeks times 7 is you want to send something, even if it's the same piece over and over, a postcard, the yellow letter, go out and put a flyer on the mailbox, go out and talk to the neighbors, whatever that might be. That's one good way. My website is darbyshouses.com. Come on to my website and click on free consultation. Everybody on the call, man, I'll do a 30-minute free consultation to talk to you about your business, where you are, where you want to go. There's information on the website there to ask you to give me a profile of who you are and what you're looking for. So that's one of the things. Anybody else have any other questions at this time? One of the things to remember is it's a numbers game. I hate to take it down to that because it really is a people business, but it is totally a numbers game. Your success will be a direct result of how many sellers you talk to and how many offers you make. And if you've never made an offer yourself, now's the time to learn how to do it. So if you guys would sign up, we'll get you started. We'll get you well on your way of being real good at making this real estate a business. Here's where we are now. This is the complimentary webinar. There's your prices. The members of GaREIA, early registration through June 12th. Non-members through June 12th. You can register at GaREIA.com. The first class will be on the 16th at 10 a.m. And that's about all I have for tonight, unless somebody else has something to offer. Well, have a good evening, and hopefully we'll see you on Saturday.
Yep. Looking forward to it. We'll see you.
Thanks, guys.
Guys, have a good night.
Good night, Les.
Thanks, Darlene and Kurt.
Appreciate you, Karen. It's our pleasure.